Hi, everybody. I'm Jennifer Phillips Russo, the Viticulture Extension Specialist for the Lake Erie Regional Grape Program, and I'm here today with Kevin Martin, our Business Specialist.
Hey,
Welcome back,
everybody.
Kevin.
Good to be back. Just here letting you know that I am back. Jen was here the whole time. I was off for the last 4 or 5 weeks between the holiday and some family leave. We welcomed our second child here into the house this past November, so I needed to take some time off and try to sleep.
How'd that go?
I hope I helped my wife out a little bit, so maybe she got a little bit more, but I don't know. Um, we're surviving. It's a lot of fun, but it doesn't involve a lot of sleep, as I'm sure most of our growers who are parents know. But it is good to be back. I'd rather be back in the office, but here we are again, still at home.
The
I really
foreseeable
want to,
future.
yeah, I want to make sure that you don't forget that we're here. We can't be up, in your face like we normally are in coffee pot meetings and stuff and reminding you that we're here in the same way. So hopefully this podcast video blog finds you and you remember to give us a call or contact us if you have any questions. The world keeps changing and our recommendations and advice keep changing. So if you have questions, please get in touch with us.
Right. And just for the sheer fact that the office is closed doesn't mean that we're not here for you. I feel like there's that slight disconnect. Please call us. I've had growers call me with questions, and it's just easier to set up a Zoom, and it's like being in my office. We'll just talk via Zoom. I walk them through it. So phone call, Zoom, email, we are here and still doing business as usual.
Absolutely.
Well, not as usual, a little bit different.
Right. And, the COVID stuff in terms of legislation and finance, that's kind of rapidly evolved in December while I was gone. I think, if you watch the news and maybe your mailbox, if you didn't make too much money, you got a check. That's what was in the news, or a direct deposit. But so PPP is back. Chautauqua County covered that pretty well, the economic development team there. It's the farm programs that directly relate to farms were not included in that. Probably honestly didn't need to be. It was a fairly decent year for most of agriculture compared to years past. But basically what it all means is it's been fairly simplified and a lot of farms aren't qualifying for a lot of the new stuff right now. PPP is going to require hardship this time around. Most farmers are seeing their revenue up, especially in the grape industry in our region. So I guess the good news is revenue is up for the most part, and that's a lot simpler than trying to, see what you're going to get out of PPP. But if you have questions about any of those programs, feel free to ask. Because of labor shortages and immigration law and the fact that everybody is doing well, we're seeing a real dramatic spike in the shortage of labor. I think maybe people are cleaning up vineyards and I think there's just not enough help to do that. So if you have any questions about that, let me know. But basically in general, all signs of more expensive labor continue this year. Those are sort of my big takeaways from January that I didn't get to share with you. But anything you guys want to ask about for sure is it's not like it's off limits, but those are my two big takeaways from the last month.
And I have heard Andy Musa and I were actually handing out our calendar, the viticulture planning calendar that we put together down in Northeast Pennsylvania. That was actually on the minds of half of the people who came in and talked to us. It was so nice to talk to people in person. And they had said that labor is somewhat of an issue.
Yeah, I mean, I'm hearing stuff that's, I think 35 to 40 cents a vine was sort of the high end last year, and we're way above that on the high end. There's still a lot of that going on. I think, when prices change fairly rapidly, they don't change for everybody at the same time. One crew might be at 33 cents or 34, and you might have another crew at 40 or 42. And because prices are so high, I think you're seeing some growers that didn't necessarily pay those prices starting to come around to pay them. A lot of times when we saw prices of like 40, 45 cents a vine, it was the guy who had 5 acres that put it off till March. They weren't numbers that were meaningfully impacting the average cost of pruning. We can certainly I think we're going to be talking to some people about what we should do for our virtual podcasts this
Yeah.
coming year. So as a reminder, for the foreseeable future, they're going to be virtual. But what we should probably touch on again is just continuing the transition to mechanization, because even if, prices are $300 a ton and you can afford to pay 45 cents a vine, it doesn't mean you need to. You could mechanize, and it certainly means you should probably be thinking about mechanizing, because we all know that prices don't stay higher forever. And if they do, it's only because there's inflation and your other prices are going to go up anyway. So yeah, I think that's probably another topic we'll touch on in the future. Not something that's really a takeaway from January for me. Like, I don't think you should run out and completely change your strategy in the middle of pruning season necessarily, unless you really have to, but something to think about for 2022.
And just as another reiteration, we are here for you. Please reach out with your questions. We can find you answers. Just because we're not sitting in the office doesn't mean we're not available. So feel free to call, text, write, email, however you want to get a hold of us, please do so. Right.
And, I think that's what I'm getting at here. Obviously, we're not trying to get you to learn all about mechanization in this podcast, but if you the one thing I'd like you to take away from this podcast is there are still a lot of interesting questions about Concord grapes, and market conditions, viticultural conditions, whatever, continue to evolve. So please feel free to continue to, bounce ideas off of us and the rest of the industry. And we'd love to be your liaison between you and the rest of the industry as well. We know you guys learn just as much from others as you do from us. So we really like to make those connections as well. So yeah. We're here. Thanks for joining us this week. Please, if you have any questions or comments, either enter them below or get a hold of us the way we previously mentioned. Thanks for joining us, and we'll see you all next week. Be safe out there.